Operations with fractions. If we're going to add or subtract fractions, then we have to convert each fraction to an equivalent fraction that has the same denominator. So I'll show you an example of that in a bit, but you've got to be comparing apples to apples, so they've got to have the same bottom number. So we'll choose the lowest common denominator and add or subtract the numerators. You know what? Let's just skip to it. So here we have 1/2 plus 3/5. Well, we can't add a half and fifths, but we can convert each of these let's see, the lowest common multiple of 2 and 5 is actually going to end up being 10. So some number of tenths plus some number of tenths, and I had to multiply by 5 to get that 2 to become a 10. Do the same with the top number, and I had to multiply by 2 to get an equivalent fraction of 3/5 to 6/10. So therefore, I can now add up the 6 and the 5 and the 6, and that gives us 11/10, which is a proper answer, or 1 1/10. So if we're going to add together numbers like this, we want to change them to improper fractions because it's going to be a lot cleaner, and we're going to make sure we get it right. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2, 3, 4, 5 is 5/3, plus 6 times 4 is 24, plus 5 is 29/6. So that's step 1, but we still need to get thirds, right? We still need to get them so that they're equivalent and have the same denominator. So the lowest common multiple, don't be fooled here, is we can keep 29/6 because 6 times 1 is 6, 3 times 2 is 6, 5 times 2 is 10. So there's an equivalent fraction, and now we can add these puppies together and get 39/6, or, which is a perfectly legitimate answer, or 6.5. And the same rule applies if we are subtracting. If we had 3 2/5 minus 2 3/4, that's going to work out to 17/5 minus 11/4, and the lowest common denominator is going to be the multiples of 5 and 4. We're going to have to make it to 20. So we multiply this one. 5 times 4 is 20, so 17 times 4 is 68, minus 4 times 5 is 20, so 11 times 5 is 55. 68 minus 55 gives us a good old 13/20, or 13/20. That's adding and subtracting. You've got to have the same denominator. If we're multiplying, we multiply, this was even easier, multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. We can do a bit of canceling, so you can cancel the highest common factor between any numerator and denominator, so that's these. And you can also cross cancel, but we can look at that. And you always want to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions before multiplying. Again, it just means that you're not going to get it wrong. Remember that the word of is code for multiply. So if I have 1/3 of 24, it means mathematically I have 1/3 times 24. And before we do those examples, the reciprocal of a number multiplied by the number itself is equal to 1. So 1/3 of 3, and remember we write a whole number as 3/1, equals 3/3 equals 1. That's a very sloppy 3, isn't it, sir? So here we have some multiplication exemples. It's pretty simple. We just multiply these two. 5 times 2 is 10, and then we multiply these two. 7 times 3 is 21. Is there anything we can cancel? That's it. That is done burger. So now we want to use this one, and this is mixed. And remember, we want to convert mixed fractions to improper fractions. So 3 times 1 plus 2 is 5/3 times 21/10. And now between 5 and 3, I can't obviously simplify that, but what I can do is between 5 and 10, the highest common denominator, the highest common factor there is actually 5. 5 divided by 5 gives me 1. 10 divided by 5 gives me 2. And then if I look the other way, diagonals are cool. We can do this. If we look at 3 and 21, their highest common factor is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 21 divided by 3 is 7. So now I've got a much simpler task. I've got 7 times 1 and 2 times 1. I've got 7 tooths. That's not really how you say it. And that can be written as 3 1/2, but either one is correct. So remember, canceling, we are able to cancel diagonally like this or from top to bottom. And finally, dividing. To divide by a fraction, multiply by its reciprocal. And reciprocal is just flipping it over. So remember, we want to keep this one, we want to change that one, and we want to flip this one. If that were fried chicken, it would be very tasty. So I'm going to keep 4 over 15. I'm going to change divide into multiply, and I'm going to flip so that I have a 25 over 12. So this is the reciprocal. I'll abbreviate that one. Gosh, the handwriting is just bad. And now, before I go any further, let's see what we can cancel. So between 15 and 25, I've got a factor of 5. Divide that by 5, I get 3. Divide that by 5, I get 4. And between 4 and 12, well, 4 is the highest common factor. And so that brings that down to 3. 5 times 1, 3 times 3. So the answer there is 5/9. And again, if we are playing around with mixed numbers, we want to turn them into improper fractions. So we're going to keep this one, change that to multiply, and we're going to flip that reciprocal. So this will be 35/18. Change the divide to multiply, and that will come out as 27 times. And so we'll flip it and do 27/28. Isn't that exciting? What can we do here? Well, we got a common factor here between this one and this one of 7. 7 into 35 leaves us 5. 7 into 28 leaves us 4. And, look, these guys, it's 9, isn't it? So 18 divided by 9 gives us 2. 27 divided by 9 gives us 3. Hey, if you don't do this, you can use a calculator, do 35 times 27 over 18 times 28, and then you can reduce it from there. I think you're going to find it a lot easier if you do it this way, so I highly recommend it. 4 times 2 is 8. So you get either the improper fraction of 15 over 8, which is correct, or you can convert it to mixed numbers. There you go.